Hello everyone, this is Pineapple Taco. I have my fourth placement match for my Overwatch series. I'm currently 3-0. I have 2 games on Zenyatta and 1 game on Soldier 76. So for this fourth game, you'll see another Zenyatta game. And I've sped up the clip, or actually I cut it, so that you see when my team is on the attack and then we go into overtime. Because in the first round, while we were defending, we let them get both points. So I'm not really going to talk about the gameplay today. There's not really much I can say about Overwatch that is profoundly insightful or that was really interesting about this game. What instead I'm going to talk about is some commentary topics that I came up with on the drive to work this morning. And there's one that I want to do that's more designed for a story time episode that I'll be doing infrequently because I lead a very boring life. But I think it'll be a good story time episode. In the first episode, I talked about the first time I got high. And although this next story isn't nearly as good as that one, I think it's still relevant and it's at least something to talk about. I'm not really bothered by talking about it. And also amongst commentary topics, I was going to do a kind of like a series idea of things that irk me, things that get under your skin and you're not able to articulate your position as well just because it bothers you so very much. And, I don't think YouTube is really has any people who just like bitch about things for no reason. I think it's a pretty chill place. All the comments are always super nice and nobody ever creates drama unnecessarily. So I think I'm really going to corner the market on this idea. So for the first series of what irks me or gets under my skin, I don't really have a name for this series yet. So I'll have to come up with one, or maybe you can suggest one, all three of you who watch this. The first thing that I'm going to talk about that really gets under my skin is the anti-vaccination crowd. I think it's my biggest pet peeve in the world. Absolutely just drives me insane for a couple reasons. First and foremost, you're disregarding a whole lot of science that says you're being an idiot. And two, I used to work in college. I interned with the March of Dimes. I did the internship. I started off with the internship because I needed a couple of extra credits and I didn't want to take another class that I was going to sleep through and still get an A in. So I took an internship with the March of Dimes, and it turned out to be really fantastic. I actually ended up moving my career into the nonprofit field, and it's still what I do to this day. But my first taste of it was at the March of Dimes. If you're not familiar with the March of Dimes, or not too familiar with the March of Dimes, you probably know that they help premature babies. They fund research and things like that to help premature babies. But their original start was back in the day when polio was around, and they were directed by FDR to go and find a cure or a vaccine, some solution to polio. And they ended up funding some of the research done by Dr. Jonas Salk, who created the polio vaccine. So, this thing that was already bothering me before just became a whole lot more important to me because of the work I was doing. Those roots, they may not be spending all their time focusing on vaccines and, polio anymore, but it's still very much core of the foundation. So it just took on an extra magnitude of importance once I started working there. And I think it really just bothers me because, you have so much scientific research that says, hey, vaccines are completely safe. It's not going to give your kid autism. You need to vaccinate your kids for a number of reasons, which we'll go into. But this crowd of people is like, no, no, I know better. I know better because did a little research on the internet, and I found, a couple of search results that agree with me. And these are the kind of people who don't use Google, they don't use Bing. Their search engine of choice, I feel like, is probably like AVG or Ask Jeeves or maybe even the Yahoo search engine. It's just, it's so ridiculous that this can be considered, you know, topical and up for debate after, 99% of doctors are saying, don't believe that bullshit. This doctor who wrote the original study was discredited. Just don't do it. Vaccinate your kids. And here we are with a bunch of people who, raised us to say, hey, don't believe everything you see on the internet because anyone can put anything there. And here they are just shooting off their mouth about how vaccines are going to give your kids autism and shit like that. And, it's whatever you find on the Yahoo search engine. And Jenny McCarthy, who, crusaded the shit out of this, process. And, I got nothing against Jenny McCarthy, but, it's like Jim Jeffries says, I like playmates, but I don't take medical advice for them. It's one of my things. I feel the same way. She's not the brightest, but yet we're going to run to her for medical research. I mean, just, it's so infuriating that we're going to dismiss people who spend, decades of their life in schooling and, training because, we spent, 15, 20 minutes on Yahoo searching for the most obscure shit that you can find. So the whole process started with a kind of a, if you give your kids autism kind of thing. And now, since it's not that argument, it really isn't as strong as it used to be. So I know this from talking to other nonprofits who work with vaccinations. Uh, they're kind of shifting the political discussion about it to parent choice. If you aren't allowed to, the government is taking away your rights as a parent if they tell you to vaccinate your children. And I think that's just it's just so fucking stupid because, okay, you want to argue that your rights are being trampled because the government is telling you to do what your kids, and you don't want to vaccinate your kids because, you're too stupid to use logic or whatever. And so you're not going to vaccinate your kids, but I want to apologize for that. I live next to an interstate now, so you're going to hear random shit up in these audio commentaries. Anyway, you're taking away the rights of the parents who do want to vaccinate their kids and, don't want their kids to get polio and measles and mumps and all that other shit, or rubella. You're taking away their rights because, they did the right thing. They vaccinated their kids so that they wouldn't get sick. And just because they're vaccinated doesn't mean they can't get the disease. It's a herd mentality. If everyone has the vaccine, has their vaccinations, then no one can get the stuff. But if you introduce it into the population, even those who have been vaccinated are going to get sick. And that's the real problem here, is that you're taking away their rights to protect their children from these things because you don't want your rights trampled on because the government's telling you, hey, maybe you don't kill other people's kids. That's the argument with me that just really, really bothers me. I had another talking point, but I've kind of forgot it. I had to do this commentary twice. But that basically boils down to that. I hate the idea that we're dismissing people with decades of experience and training and research because of what you find on the internet. and you don't want your rights trampled. So you want the right to not vaccinate your kid, and potentially kill your neighbor's kids. It's just the most asinine thing to me. And so that's the first topic that irks me, gets under my skin. I don't know. I need to find a name. Like I said, you guys can come up with, try and help me find a name for the bitching and moaning that I'll do on these commentary topics, because what the hell am I going to say about the gameplay itself? Uh, with that being said, we're at the end of the video. There's only 1 minute left in it. This is the fourth placement match. I'm now 4-0, as you can see. I'm going to try and upload episode 5 on Wednesday or Thursday. I'm thinking it's probably going to be Thursday, but I'll try to do it on Wednesday. Today's Tuesday. And I will do another double feature Friday on Friday, where I put up 2 games. So game 5 will come up on Wednesday or Thursday, and 6 and 7 will come up on double feature Friday. And then we can hopefully get through the series by the beginning of the next week, or well, the middle of next week, I think. So if you're interested in things I can bitch about, names for this, or anything else, leave a comment. I'm sure I'll hear from all one of you. And thanks for listening.